A lot of us probably struggle with sleep hygiene, how to fall asleep, stay asleep, and get restful sleep. But did you know that improving your sleep hygiene could help improve your overall health? Health Break, a podcast by UPMC Health Plan, dives into this topic with advice and tips you can use from our expert wellness health coaches. Listen now to find out how you can start improving your sleep at upmchp.us/healthbreaksleep. That's upmchp.us/healthbreaksleep.
This episode contains explicit language. Welcome to Mom and Dad Are Fighting, Slate's parenting podcast for Thursday, July 6th, the Gap Year or Bust edition. I'm Elizabeth Newcamp. I write the homeschool and family travel blog, Dutch Goose. I'm the mom of three littles, Henry, who's 11, Oliver, who's 9, and Teddy, who's 6. And we currently are without a location to call home.
I'm Zach Rosen. I make another show. It's called The Best Advice Show. And I am dad to Noah, who is 5, and Ami, who's 2. We live in Detroit, Michigan.
I'm Jamilah Lemieux. I'm a writer, contributor to Slate's Care and Feeding Parenting column, and mom to Naima, who is 10, and we live in Los Angeles.
Well, today on the show, we have a family who's all ready to take a gap year, except their oldest child is less than thrilled at the idea. Every time it comes up in conversation, she comes up with a reason why it won't work. We're, of course, also going to talk about our week in parenting, and if you're sticking around for Slate Plus, we're going to talk about co-sleeping. Here's what you'll hear if you have Slate Plus. I was up so much with Henry, walking to another room, breastfeeding, that I was like falling asleep during the day doing stuff because every time I got up, I couldn't get back to sleep. And what finally fixed that for us was co-sleeping, that if I could have him there, I could feed him and put him back without so much disruption. And I was worried I was going to fall asleep in like the armchair or rocker holding him, which is also dangerous. So I just think like opening up the conversation and saying like, okay, I accept some risk for this because it's working for our families, but are there other things I should be doing to make this less dangerous? Not only will you get to hear that segment, but as a Slate Plus member, you get a whole bonus segment every week. Plus, you get to listen to all your other favorite Slate podcasts ad-free. It's truly the best way to listen and the best way to support the show. You can sign up for Slate Plus now at slate.com/momanddadplus. All right, we're going to jump into triumphs and fails as soon as we get back from this short break.
The new 2023 Ford Escape is the perfect getaway car. Featuring an available 13.1-inch center stack screen, 360-degree camera, and Bang & Olufsen sound system and spatial flexibility for extra legroom. The new 2023 Ford Escape. Learn more at Ford.com. Some models, trims, and features may not be available or may be subject to change.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Heidecker. You know me, Tim and Eric, Bridesmaids, and Fantastic Four. I'd like to personally invite you to listen to Office Hours Live with me and my co-hosts, DJ Doug Pound.
Hello.
And Vic Berger.
Howdy.
Every week we bring you laughs, fun, games, and lots of other surprises. It's live. We take your Zoom calls.
Music.
We love having fun. Excuse me?
Songs. Vic said something.
Songs.
Music.
I like having fun. I like to laugh. I like to meet people who can make me laugh. Please subscribe now.
Today we're doing something a little different and reaching back into time for some classic triumph and fails from our mental archives. Jamilah, what do you have for us?
All right, so this was the fall of 2016. Oh, the happy years when we lived in New York. And we had just moved into a new apartment. And this was literally like that day we moved into a new apartment, and I packed all of Naima's clothes away, and she had to go to school the next day. And so all that I had that was clean and accessible that morning were pajamas. So, and they were pajamas, not like t-shirt and shorts or leggings.
Like a onesie pajama?
They were 2 pieces, but they were very clearly pajamas. They had a print. They had, like a collared shirt and pants. And I have the cutest picture. Maybe I can find it and post it on Instagram of Naima in school wearing her pajamas looking pissed off because that was all that we had. And I just convinced her. I was like, it'll be fine. Just wear the pajamas. And because she was 3 going on 4, she's like, okay. And so she did. And everybody else had on their little uniforms, and Naima had on pajamas.
How did she do?
She did fine. You know, I expected her to feel a little bit more insecure about it, but she had what I recall, a pretty fun day.
This is very anxiety producing for me. As all of my, I'm not at the house. All of my things are gone, and I'm thinking, oh boy. I didn't really think about things like still being boxed for the first day of school, or yes. Okay. Well, at least if it happens to me, I can show them your picture and say, she managed just fine.
She did just fine.
She was only slightly pissed.
Only a little bit.
Yeah, that's young enough where it's just kind of adorable. And like if it was now, that would be pretty humiliating.
Probably have a different
But
day.
the other kids were in like a uniform, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they were.
Oh, goodness. Okay, Zach, how about you?
I think back to when Noah she was still in a high chair, so she was probably but eating solid foods. What is that, like a year? She was about a year. And here in Detroit, Middle Eastern food is very important to our region. We have one of the biggest Middle East populations outside of the Middle East in Dearborn, which is an adjacent suburb. We eat a lot of that food here. And do you know what toum is? You might know it as garlic sauce. Have you had it? That white. It's the greatest. It's just garlic, oil, lemon juice, and salt. It's kind of the consistency of a hummus, but you can it goes with anything. A little goes a long way, and it people come here who don't have a lot of particularly Lebanese restaurants where they live and buy a quart of it and take it home because it's just so good. And I thought it was time for Noah to have her first taste of toum, and I spooned out maybe a teaspoon on her little baby spoon and gave her a bite, and she just started throwing up. There was way too much garlic and oil for her cute little belly to handle.
No.
I thought I was being a cultural, I was really kind of welcoming her into our region, and introducing her to the important foodways here. She wasn't having it, and when Shira came home, I told her, Noah's been throwing up. I wonder what it was. And she's like, well, what did you feed her? And I'm like, oh, I gave her. Oh, yeah. I didn't even put it together at first that it was this very potent garlic that wasn't good for her. So I recommend toum, Toum, to all our listeners, but probably wait until your kid is older than 18 months. She likes it now, all these years later.
I was going to ask, did that?
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, that was a big tummy failure.
No permanent
I don't know what I was doing. I still don't, but I knew even less then. Yeah.
I'm reaching back into the not too distant past to Henry had a ton of thank you notes he had to write, and he's very big into letter writing, so he largely does them all by himself. He writes the notes, he addresses them, he asks for stamps, he puts them in the mail.
Great.
And I don't really know what goes out, but a friend was cleaning out some stuff and sent me a picture that she failed to send me from a letter that he wrote. Dear, we'll just say person, thank you for the $20. I don't know what I'm going to choose, but I hope I make a good decision. No signature. So Henry's, projecting that his future self may not make a good choice. I don't know what he spent that $20 on. So I showed him the letter, and he's like, I wonder what I did do with that. So to all of you who have received 2-line notes from my son pondering his own ability to spend wisely, yes, at least he wrote a note, right?
I honestly, yes, that counts for so much more than the content at that age. To take the initiative of writing a thank you note and putting it in the mail yourself, that's huge. That's huge. Mm-hmm. You should be very proud.
Oh, he loves to send the things out. I just thought they were maybe better formed than than this. But I mean, the person was very tickled when they found it again. So
yeah, that's fun.
That's always nice. Well, on that note, we're going to take another quick break, and then we'll see you back here for our listener question. All right, let's jump into our listener question.
Hi, Mom and Dad. Longtime listener of the show here, but first time writing in. My husband and I have dreamed of taking our family on a gap year since before we even had kids. Before settling down, we were world travelers and even worked for a few seasons at a science camp in Antarctica together. So this is really important to us. Our kids are approaching what we feel are the ideal ages for this experience, and we're fortunate to have lucked into the means for a gap year. During the pandemic, we were able to sell our first home in Denver for a nice profit, and we've squirreled that away in savings for this very occasion. I'm a copywriter, and I plan to do some freelance work during our time away. We ideally want to begin our gap year about 1 year from now, when our kids will be 7 and 9. We've slowly introduced the idea of exploring the world together for a year to our kids, who are now 6 and 8.5, and we've received some mixed reactions. Our 5-year-old son is pretty excited about it, but our 8-year-old daughter instantly starts crying at the mere mention. She's a super social girl, and her friends are her life. Not to mention she's very attached to the family dog, who she can't imagine leaving behind for a year. She also expresses anxiety about missing a whole school year. We planned a home/world school. Even when we talk about this super casually, she gets very upset and says she's going to stay behind and live with someone else. The catch is that I know she's going to love the experience when she's in it. We've traveled a fair bit internationally as a family, and she always loves our adventures. She's so intrepid and brave, and living in Colorado, we're always going on some half-baked expeditions, camping, backpacking, skiing, hiking, and she proves to be adaptable, excited, and just down for it all. So how do I help ease her into this idea of a gap year? I don't want to feel like we're ripping her away unwillingly from her life here, but this is something my husband and I feel so strongly about doing, and we'll regret it if we don't.
This is a very exciting idea. I'm excited for you and your family, and totally get that an 8-year-old might not be thrilled about this, as they're just kind of starting to, make their own friends in a meaningful way. However, like you say, they are like into this kind of thing, and at least in theory, when they're not thinking about how much they'll miss their friends. And so I don't know where you're going, but wherever that is, start getting them super excited about that place. Like, are you thinking about moving to Paris? Like, watch Ratatouille. Are you going to Hawaii? Watch Moana. Like, think about really cool things, books, magazines, movies from that place, and start embedding them before you leave. So they're like, oh yeah, the sand is going to feel really good between my toes. And also, I think there are ways to, I know, there are all sorts of like expat Facebook groups for adults. And I think you can start making some connections wherever you're going virtually, start reaching out to people in these Facebook groups and look for families that have like-aged kids to your own, and then maybe you can do some kind of I don't know if it's pen paling or just like FaceTiming, but just like really do a lot to make friends as best you can, or help your kid make friends with the people that are going to be in the place where you'll be traveling to, because that's not going to solve the social dilemma, but I think it's going to really make it a lot less painful for them. And I know, Liz, you're going to have a lot to say about this as an intrepid world traveler, but that's where I'd start.
I definitely co-sign what you said about finding content from this place, that talks about this place that you're going to. In addition to finding other books and movies about kids that are traveling and seeing somewhere outside of, their normal surroundings. There's a lot of books about kids having new experiences, trying new cultures, eating new foods. You can also start introducing some of the foods that you all will try. If there's a restaurant in town that serves the cuisine from where you're going, you all can go there. If there's a museum that has, an exhibit or any content dedicated to this place where you're going, you can get into that as well. And just be encouraging, acknowledge that this is scary. It is difficult to leave the home that for a significant amount of time, and you will miss your friends and you will miss your school, and that's okay, but just remember that we're coming back. This is not forever. This is a year. Just talk to her about, how much has changed in the past year. already, right? And just like how quickly a year of her life has gone by and some of the things that you all have been able to do. And just that, this year is going to go quickly on the road too. And the next thing you know, we'll be turning around to come back home, and that home is always going to be here. We're not taking you away forever. This is just something that we believe will be very meaningful for you and for us. And, we believe that it's an experience that you'll love.
I think that the empathy part is so important. For as much as we move and we go do things, our kids are not always thrilled. Their initial response is almost always we don't want to do this.
We just got here.
Sometimes it's we're making this choice, and sometimes the choice is being made for us. But I think what really seems to speak to them is like Jamilah said, the empathy of this is really hard. And I completely understand that we are leaving friends, and I'm leaving friends too. But I'm doing it confident that I can stay in touch. One, because we have always done that before, right? If you have any friends that you have moved away from and stay in touch, holding those up to your children as these are relationships that I was able to continue to nurture makes that a little bit easier. I think preparing for that distance with friends, so going ahead and starting to set up whatever you're going to use. So if that's exchanging postcards or letters, you can do some of that now before you go. We have used before the Marco Polo app that allows you to send little videos, and I set that up with our friends' parents, and then the kids can record things. If your kids don't have email addresses, I would get them email addresses and then attach them to your phone. That way, when an email comes in, I can be like, hey, so-and-so emailed you. Do you want to read it and respond right now from my phone? Those little things really help. I mean, when we moved abroad, Henry was 3, maybe almost 4, and he was able to maintain friendships with other 4-year-olds just by he would sometimes say I miss my friend Lucy, and we would say okay, should we get her a postcard and mail it to her? And he would draw on it and mail it, and then she would mail something back, right? And so even if you are doing some of the work, because I think kids have a hard time understanding that this is work, if you are doing that to kind of keep fresh in your friends' memories and keep your child feeling like they're engaging with this other person, it is amazing how excited they are to see each other when you get back, and setting up those FaceTime calls. But you can start doing that now. Have her come up with a plan. I love the idea of introducing food and things like that, because that is the stuff that we love to send back. That's really fun. As they're planning or talking about stuff, you can find things that the friends might be really interested in. And then that makes it exciting. I can't wait to go to this place because I can get my best friend this, for us, Japan, this Hello Kitty stuff. Lucy is very into Hello Kitty. Henry is very excited about going and finding Hello Kitty stuff to send her. And that makes him excited about this, even though that distance is going to be something that they have to deal with.
And Liz, you've done this before. So to what extent do you get the kids involved in planning out the thing? Because that seems like you can giving them some agency is going to help in some way. The more,
the better. I think sometimes we err on the side of they are too involved. And then when everything doesn't pan out, there's, they get upset by that. But
right.
I think the more that you can give them and the more that they can be involved, especially with something like this, where you're traveling around. We have friends that just left the military and bought an RV and are driving around for a full year. And they are very much letting their kids help plan the next destinations. And they had some of the same concerns. Their kids were we thought we were going to get to stay in one place. We made these friends. Dad retired. We, thought this was great. And now they were let's get in an RV and drive all around and not be anywhere for very long. And they are having this magical journey. And they're so excited because they get to pick some of the things and places that they go. So I think the more that you can make the conversation about hey, are there things that you would want to go do or see? Are there things you're excited about? I mean, even for us still, every time, we're talking about the move, Henry in particular, who's 11, will say, I'm I'm like excited about these things, but I'm also nervous because I'm leaving my friends and I'm going to miss them. We always are just like, yes, it's hard. Like it's really hard. And sometimes in life we have to do really hard things. And this is good practice. But what we can do is like make some fun choices, right? So is there something that you're looking forward to? And can we get that on a calendar so that there's a physical date when you're going to get to do this and then tell your friends about it? If you can have those first like check-ins already planned, like, oh, but on this, like, hey, in that first week, like, hey, once we get settled on this date, like we've already set up a phone call. I think those things can really, really soften the blow. And so if you just treat it with empathy, and don't get upset that they're raining on your parade. Like you are the adult with all the power. You are deciding that this is going to happen, right? Like that choice has already been made. So I think the more that you can just be like, yeah, we're excited about this. I know you're going to enjoy it, but I know it's also hard. Seems to be the way. I feel like I try to absorb some of those blows that come because they're expected, right? Like, it's good that they're developing friendships that they don't want to leave. Like that is a very good skill and thing that is happening to your child.
And stress that you're coming back too.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't always have that, which is...
You don't have that,
no.
Yeah. Yeah. You're hardcore. You're so hardcore. You guys are amazing.
Well,
But it sounds like this is a 1-year adventure that they'll be returning home afterwards. So obviously that's something not to gloss over. Like you're not leaving forever. But I'm sure the 8-year-old understands that. And
you can do countdowns, and there's all kinds of fun countdowns too you can be excited for leaving, but also for coming back. If you haven't read Dan's book, How to Be a Family, he talks about some of these issues that he had with his girls. So that's a good thing to prepare you because as you read the book, that feeling kind of waxed and waned throughout the trip too, and reared its head. So there's a bunch of books out there. There are so many like Instagram accounts and Facebook groups of people that are traveling. So I think that's good advice too. Zach mentioned to reach out to find friends, but also just to kind of lurk a little bit and see what other people are doing to deal with that. Our friends that are doing it have found a group that they meet up with frequently. So they've actually run into some of the same families as they've RV'd when they can. So picked up some new friends along the way too, which is kind of fun. Well, wannabe world schooler, thank you for writing in. Hopefully some of our advice helps. I know we have a few traveling family listeners out there. You guys have written in before, so we'd love to hear your advice, how you're dealing with this. We also need your questions, so please reach out to us at momanddad@slate.com or leave us a voicemail at 646-357-9318. That's it for our show. If you liked what you heard today, please subscribe to the show and give us a rating and review. Or better yet, tell a friend about us. That helps us expand our lovely little community. This episode of Mom and Dad Are Fighting is produced by Rosemary Belson and Maura Currie. Shasha Leonard is the voice of our listeners. Alicia Montgomery is VP of Slate Audio. For Zach Rosen and Jamilah Lemieux, I'm Elizabeth Newcamp. Thanks for listening.